Last week, we talked about relationship selling, okay? And what it is with the relationship selling, here's the basic idea behind it, okay? The basic idea behind it is that if you have a customer once, okay, you have to work hard in order to get that customer once. That customer, if you look at it as a one-time sale, that customer will come in and buy from you. You'll make a profit based on the selling of the product. You buy it for one price, sell it to the customer for a higher price. And you could say, that's it. That's how I make my money. I just make my money on the difference of what I paid for it and what I sell it to the customer. Then you would have to go out and find another customer to do the same thing all over again. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work because finding new customers is time consuming and expensive. The thought behind relationship selling says, you know, if we could have a customer come back on multiple occasions, and if you have a customer for a lifetime, how many times would they come back to you? Cars are the best analogy that I have for this. If you're selling cars, the average buyer, let's say, will come back every 5 years and buy a car. So the average buyer will replace their car every 5 years. How much is that customer worth to you on the first sale? Well, we say, I'm going to make a couple $1,000s off selling that car. Okay, great. And if that customer never walks back in again, that's all you've made on that customer. But let's think about it. If you've got a relationship with that customer and that customer likes dealing with you and knows that there's good value in that relationship to them, every 5 years they'll come back. So let's assume that over the course of the lifetime, they come in 5 times. 5 times. Suddenly you've taken that, and forget the time value of money. If you buy one car, you make $2,000. But what you're doing is selling 5 cars now over the course of a lifetime. That's a $10,000 customer. That customer is worth 5 times as much to you as a one-time person. And this is what relationship selling is all about. How can we encourage customers to keep coming back? And the relationship is the key to it. And that is knowing what your customer's needs are and being able to meet those needs so that customer builds a trust in you and will repeatedly come and buy from you. That takes a lot of work on behalf of the salesperson. It requires a knowledge of the customer, knowledge of the customer's needs, an appreciation for how the customer's needs change over their lifetimes. These sorts of efforts on the part of a salesperson can be challenging. And you say, well, I'm not in the sales business. I own a business. Well, if you own a business, you're in the sales business because the fact is that you want to sell a product. You're effectively selling a product or service. And the idea is if you can have that customer come back on multiple occasions and feel really good and you feel really good about it, then there's a mutual benefit to both you, the seller, and the buyer. This week, we're taking it one extra step, and that is, okay, relationship selling is nice, and you get to know them. It's touchy-feely. It's a very touchy-feely thing to be able to say, okay, I know the person, and that person will come back, and we're good friends, and da-da-da-da. But this section takes it and says, okay, that's important. That is absolutely important, but there is some sort of systematic, objective measurements and tools that we can use in order to help build that customer relationship. And this is known in the trade as customer relationship management. Sometimes you even hear tell of the buzzword CRM. Okay? And what customer relationship means, it's really a whole ball of wax. It involves establishing, developing, maintaining, and most importantly, optimizing, getting the most value for you and the customer by focusing on understanding the customer's needs and desires. So it really is a concerted effort. And what we're looking at tonight is what are some of the things that you as an individual or a salesperson need to concern yourself with for building a CRM system. Well, if you think about it, you say, well, one of the things I need to be able to do is improve my sales and improve the customer relationship, reduce my costs. All of those things come into the customer relationship management equation, okay? There's a marketing aspect to it, customer sales, a customer service aspect of it, sales aspect of it. You could even argue that there's a strong financial aspect of it too, from an accounting or a management point of view. So, what we need to be able to do is do the magic by combining all those and having appreciation for them so that we can get the most benefit. So, what is involved with the magic? Well, the magic involves establishing some sort of methodology in order to build this relationship so that we can manage it. Okay? So, the first part of this unit really looks, or this topic section looks at, what are some of the things I need to do in order to build this relationship model called customer relationship management? The very first thing you do, and every small business I talk to have so much trouble with this first one. The first one is the simplest yet the most difficult to do, because in the first one, you need to determine what your ideal customer is. You have to decide what customer you want to deal with. And that is tough. That is tough. You got to ask questions. These are hard questions. Who is my ideal customer? What makes that ideal customer tick? In other words, what are the things that customer is looking for in order to build that relationship? And what can my business provide that customer to make their lives or their business better and more efficient? So what do you need to do with this customer in order to make it work? Now, I'm not saying one customer is better than another. It's just you can't be all things to all people. So you really need to seek out what is the ideal customer that you want. That's the one you need to focus on. That's the fundamental of customer relationship management, but it's one of the hardest things for all small businesses to do. The next thing you need to do is really, if we think about building a relationship, building a relationship is all about dating. You need to make a date with potential customers. And we call it networking in the business, but effectively it is getting to know as many as possible so that you can figure out who you may want to do business with. So I have it called network, which is really get out there and get to know other people who may or may not want your product. At least if you know they want it or know you don't want it, you can figure out who your potential customers are going to be. So this relationship starts by finding out these customers. So what do you need to do? Well, you can never really undervalue the value of knowing people. So you need to be able to make sure that you go to events where these people are and use these events as business opportunities. Now, this could be as simple as going out to your kid's ball game, because you might meet someone out there and you must always have it in the back of your head that person that you're speaking to may be a potential customer. So you have to understand that and keep that in the back of your mind at all times. Business functions, chamber of commerce, boards of trade, these sorts of things are often very good for that, but less formal business functions as well. Any type of event that you go to, be it a funded event or a non-funded event or something that you go to in terms of that maybe the chamber organized or maybe your Rotary organized or maybe the Lions Club organized. These are all potential opportunities for networking. Trade shows are pretty common too. If you think about trade shows, when you go to a trade show, I go to a lot of the municipal trade shows. And at the trade show, there's always an area set up for companies that sell to towns, right? That's a great networking spot because I get to meet and they get to meet me and I get to meet them, all the products they sell. Now, it's not necessarily the products I'm going to buy, but I would know, if we want to buy valves, for example. I'm not going to go out and buy a valve, a water valve, a 12-inch water valve for a water main. But if I know that company exists, I might be able to help focus when we need a water valve, they'll come to top of mind. So trade shows are really good at that kind of thing. Now, all of those that I've mentioned so far are really tangible, hard things you go to. But each one of those too apply online. You think about events. There's a lot of online events that are on the go now. Webinars, for example. You can take part in a webinar. In that webinar, you will meet people who are like-minded to you and potential customers. That's important. Business function. I'll talk about this in a minute, but with regards to social media, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like Facebook for professionals, okay? LinkedIn if you look at LinkedIn, and if you do some videos on LinkedIn, and I'll add some to the course, and what LinkedIn's about, LinkedIn is a really good opportunity to get to meet other businesses. And it is like a virtual trade show. And you can get to know suppliers as well as potential clients. One of the things that you need to be able to do, though, is when you go to those events, regardless of what the event is, make sure you got business cards. It's all about trading cards. This is like being a kid's game, but you need to be able to make sure that the person that you're speaking to at that event will remember you. A simple and cheap way to do it is to have business cards. So you can get them printed. You can get them printed locally in most towns. Most business supply stores sell. You can also get them done online. They're relatively inexpensive. For 500-600 cards, you can get it for a half decent price. These are your signature, and they will certainly be helpful. Now, further to that, in our electronic world that we live in now too, make sure when you send out emails for your company that you have a signature on your email. All that means is at the very bottom of your email, all the contact information, the same stuff that would be on a business card, is there on your email. Don't ever send out an email without that signature information, because people need to be able to know who you are, what you do, a link to your website, if you have a website, which comes up next. I'll talk about that. All these sorts of things that you can deliver to somebody who is a potential customer helps make that potential relationship grow. The third issue that you really need to look at in terms of expanding your customer base is being knowledgeable about the subject matter. And that really involves knowing your industry and knowing your business. So make sure you're on top of this. Research, read, listen, see, hear, whatever you want to call it. Soak in as much information as you can about your industry. It doesn't matter if you're a carpenter, a pipe fitter, a plumber, or anything. You need to be knowledgeable about your business field. You have to take some interest in that. And if it involves looking at magazines or looking on the web, or normally keeping up on the industry, is a great thing to do. It helps make the conversation flow a little bit better when you're talking to people, suppliers, for example. And it certainly proves to customers that you're very familiar with the subject and lends credibility to you. You can sign up for industry emails. As I say, I just mentioned LinkedIn a little while ago. LinkedIn allows you to do that. Follow the players on social media. LinkedIn, Facebook, all those companies have these sites. Make sure you're connected with these sites. You can see what they're doing. Follow the latest trends and consider your ability to capitalize on them. There's all kinds of great trends that coming up. You think about, construction. A few years ago, it was really focused on energy efficiency. And probably even today, too, energy efficiency is certainly good. But if we think about more specifically today, heat pumps. Heat pumps have become the darling of the heating industry, and you should be familiar with them if you're into the building trades. It's as simple as that. So what are the trends? Well, going to the trade shows and going to things like that can certainly help identify some of those trends for you to get familiar with. Find out the key players in your area. Who are your competitors? Who are the people that you might need to know? Who are the people that can help you? These are the key players. And it always is helpful to be familiar with who they are and be able to connect with them. And all I can do, too, to see what changes going forward is look back 5 or 10 years. What's changed in your industry in the last 5 or 10 years? Find out what that is and figure out where it's going to be in the next 5 or 10 years. That's important. It's important to understand that. So knowing your industry is really helpful, particularly when you apply the concept of going to trade shows. This is my favorite one. This one is talking about being uncomfortable. When you're comfortable, it means that you're fat and lazy and you don't have to do too much. When you're uncomfortable, you always need to be constantly reassuring yourself that you know the material, and it forces you to suck up as much information as possible. So this uncomfortableness gives you a competitive edge because you're always a challenger. You're the one that is trying to move ahead. When you get comfortable, that doesn't happen anymore. So you need to make yourself understand that being in business is not necessarily comfortable, and doing all the things that we're talking about in this customer relationship piece are not supposed to be comfortable. In fact, they're supposed to be darn right uncomfortable. It's not things that you would naturally do. And that's causes a lot of challenges for people. They're not comfortable doing certain things. But again, it is what makes you stand out from your competitors. Learn to use social media as a business tool, and this is essential in this day and age. Social media provides such an opportunity to be able to broadcast your message, whatever the message, whatever you're selling, whatever it is. It allows you to get it into the public or the market that you want it to go to, because social media allows you to direct the message. So you need to be aware of this. Now, email is a form of social media. So if you say, oh, I don't do social media, well, you certainly do email. You do social media. You have to make sure that you're on brand. Make sure you know what it is your business is, what the issues are, and you want to present yourself as being a leader in the industry. So get involved with social media. As I mentioned, LinkedIn is a good tool for meeting other companies. Facebook is a good tool, particularly if you want to be able to sell it to a consumer market. Twitter is really good if you want information on the industry. You know, there are umpteen tools out there for you to use. The challenge is, and it's really a course in and of itself, the challenge is, which tools do you want to use? You're not going to learn them all. If you don't know them all, or if you're not inclined to know them all, you don't want to be spending all your time figuring out all the social media feeds. Pick one, pick two, focus on that, and that will help your business, okay? Simple things like expand your business's reach, points, trends, and methods, and it certainly helps engage with your customers. Don't get so caught up in the technology either. You know, the technology is all pretty whiz bang, but it all comes down to people. If you set up a Facebook page, for example, and you say, there it is, done, that's like having a baby and not feeding it. I mean, really, it really doesn't work. You need to focus on a couple and spend some time at taking care of them and making sure that you use them as the tools that they were meant to be used as. Getting customers in the store is another interesting approach in order to build customer relationship management. If you have a storefront, that is, and things like discounts, coupons, free stuff, swag. We call it swag. Free consultations, product testing, open house, guarantees. That's a hook. That's like the hook on the end of the fishing rod. It is designed to draw people in. It is not designed to keep them. Your job, once you get them in, is to be able to do the types of things that we talked about earlier in terms of building that relationship, understanding the customer's needs. That's where the real core is. All that this particular thing is the incentives and the innovative incentives and bringing people in with discounts. That's the hook to get them in the store. Then you need to address those issues of building a relationship. Again, the last one is probably the one that sums it all up. If you do all the things mentioned above, it will help you. But ultimately, it comes down to word of mouth. You need to be able to deliver on your promises, because word of mouth is probably the most beneficial and yet most poisoning thing that you can run in your business. You need to be able to ensure that people speak highly of you. So you got to get the work done. If you're going to make the promises, you have to be able to make the work, make it actually deliver on those promises. If you don't, word of mouth can hurt you. Now you say, well, if I get involved in social media, people are going to be complaining. Yeah, that's true. If you give them reason to complain, they will. Your job, though, has to be make sure that you maintain the quality in order to ensure that word of mouth that you do get is positive. And if problems do emerge, and they will, fix them as fast as you can. So those are the key things that we want to be able to look at in that first objective, is to say, what is customer relationship management and how in the heck do we do it? Those 7 things that I just ran through are really key to getting good relationships started, and then you need to be able to manicure it so that you develop a long-term relationship. And as I say, that long-term relationship pays dividends over the lifetime of a customer. the second part is dealing with applying standards. And if we look at what exactly that means, what it means is that we need some way in which to see if we're doing what we're doing. How do you measure? It's like taking a measuring tape out and measuring, is this working? Okay? So a standard is a way to measure. And what we need to be able to do is to set the expectation from which we can measure against. So in order to develop quality customer relationships, it's important that we work hard to know who our customers are, as I've mentioned, what our customers really want, what promotional activities are working, which may not, which works for some customers, which doesn't work for others, and what's the most successful way to get that repeat business. So in terms of service standards, what most businesses do is they really have them at 3 levels. If we think about a service standard, it is a measure that is used to detect whether or not we're meeting our goals and we're meeting the needs of customers. It does it on these 3 levels. There's marketing aspects, which marketing is a pretty broad thing, but effectively it is the overall perspective of the business with regards to creating that relationship with the customer. That's one measure. Sales is a very tangible one. You know, we can look at our books and we can see, yeah, we made a lot of money, or no, we didn't. Okay, so sales is a very tangible one, but again, it is a measure that we can say, yeah, this is working, or no, it's not. And service is the final one. Service relates to, it's not as tangible. What it relates to is, did we meet the promises that we made? Okay, and we're going to check it off, yes or no. Okay, so with those 3 basic areas, let's look at how this actually works. First, in terms of the service standards, companies often set marketing goals. Now, we've talked about before the idea of when you set goals, they really need to be what's called SMART goals. SMART being that they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic, and they're timely. So, okay, let's think about what marketing is what we need to be able to do in terms of marketing is, what do we do in order to improve our marketing planning, our sales forecasting, our competitor intelligence. That's just a fancy way of saying what are our competitors doing. A trend analysis, what's going on, what's happening, and performance analysis, how are we doing? So we need to set some basic service standard goals in our business. And you really should do this in your business plan, as we'll look at in the last unit. You really need to say to yourself, what is it that I want to achieve here with regards to our marketing goals? Got a few examples here. These are pretty simple. First of all, attend 3 provincial trade shows in 2020. Okay. Let's ask yourself, is it specific? Yes, it is. 3 provincial trade shows. Very specific. Is it measurable? Well, 3. Did we or did we not? At the end of the year, we'll determine, did we or did we not get to 3 trade shows? Is it achievable? Well, that's really a tough one. Depends on your business. Are 3, if they're costing you $2,000 each to go to, and you're a very small business that don't have a budget for $6,000 to go to trade shows, probably that's not achievable. If you're a larger business that's been around a while, 3 trade shows, $6,000, that is achievable. It really depends on the business to determine whether or not that's achievable. But it's pointless to set a goal if you can't achieve it. So you need to look at it and say, when you're setting goals, is this achievable? For our purposes, let's assume it is. Okay, 3. Is it realistic? Well, yeah, 3. Are there 3 provincial trade shows to go to? Is probably one of the biggest things we need to ask. Well, probably there is. And timely. Timely is a critical one because timely is a really one that is left off so often. I could say, yeah, let's go to 3 trade shows. Well, do I mean in 3 years, 10 years, 20 years? Well, I've said in 2020. Again, I can check the box at the end of the year. Did I do this? So we need a time on it, okay? Similar to the next example, build and launch a functional website for the business by July. Okay, let's assume it's July of this year. Okay, build and launch. Okay, those are two things. So we need to get someone to build it, and we need to put it up online. So that's what we need by launch. Is that possible? Is it specific? Yes, it's specific. We know. Is it measurable? Yeah, well, it's there and it's not there. Is it achievable? Again, it really depends on the size of your business. But if you're going to set that goal, you're going to have to decide that in your own mind. Is it realistic? Yeah. And timely. Can we do it by July? You know, that's a reasonable goal from a marketing point of view. Now, you could ask, well, what's the website going to be? What's in it? Again, that's getting a little deeper than what that example is, but you need to start thinking about that too. What is your website going to contain? Or I got another one there, which is very similar. Set up social media pages for the business on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook by July. Again, 1, 2, 3 platforms by July should be able to be done. And the trick is I've got provide weekly posts. That's probably the key one. So again, that says I'm committing to do this. So if we look at marketing goals, these are the types of things that you want to set for some sort of a service standard. You need to commit to do certain things and be able to determine whether or not you actually achieve them. We look at sales goals. As I say, sales is the most objective one because you either made the sales or didn't make the sales. So what are measurable sales targets and measure success at achieving those targets? So let's take, for example, this, for a diesel repair shop. Let's assume you're fixing diesel engines. Increase the number of fleet service contracts by 50% before the end of the calendar year. Okay, this is a sales goal. So our fleet service contracts, we want to get them up by 50%. So if we got 10 now, we need 15 by the end of the year. Yeah, can we do that? Is it something that is specific? Yeah. Can we achieve it by the time? Is it realistic? Yeah. Is it measurable? Yeah. Is it timely before the end of the calendar year? Yeah. So it meets a SMART objective. It is defined as SMART. Or for a lawn furniture manufacturer, if we're making lawn furniture, let's assume we're making chairs, lawn chairs. Produce and sell 500 wooden lawn chairs for summer 2020. Now, I assume summer 2020, someone might argue that that's not a well-defined term, but let's assume summer's over at the end of September, okay, for the purposes of this. Can we produce and sell? If we're a company, we might say, well, that's a good sales goal, but is it achievable? If we got one person doing this, could you build 500 lawn chairs by summer 2020? I don't know. Maybe that's something that wouldn't be achievable. However, you got multiple people working for you might be able to do that. Again, it really depends on the size of the business. These are what are considered as sales goals, which define measurable sales numbers. In terms of the other common service standard, and that is the actual service delivery. Okay, this is particularly important for service type businesses. So we got to establish some service standards and communicate these to the customers. It's no good if you don't tell the customer, okay? So service standard, like for example at the college, which is selling services, okay? We need to respond as instructors online. We are committing to responding within 1 day, okay? 24-hour turnaround on, so if you write me an email, I'm supposed to respond to you within 1 day. It means I just can't ignore it for 2 days, right? So the service standard college has imposed on us, and rightfully so, because you're waiting for an answer from me, is that I shall be returning to you an answer within 1 day. That's the goal. A follow-up with customers within 1 week of the sale. This is, if you've ever bought a car lately or in the last few years, you're going to know that that's a common one in the car sales industry. Okay, you go buy a car within a week or maybe within a month. It depends on the car dealership. They will give you a call or an email or whatever it is, some form of communication to check to ensure that you are satisfied or if you had any questions and these sorts of things. So this is what we call a service standard. And again, it's specific, It's measurable. It should be attainable, and it should be realistic. And again, it has a time component that isn't so important. So for all your products, then, whatever you're selling, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, as a business, you should set some standards in terms of marketing standards, some sales standards, and some service standards for your business. That's particularly important for your employees. You might have them in your mind to say, okay, this is what I plan to do. It's good to impress those on the employee, though, because it allows you to measure if the employee is doing a good job or not. Did he or she meet those goals that you had set and communicated to the employees? And it goes back to the real meat of it. Are you meeting customer expectations?